This is Moose, my little chihuahua, and she loves astronomy, and she approves of this video, and she hopes that you enjoy it too. Okay, boys and girls, what we have here are a series of eyepieces that are from TeleVue. I happen to have every eyepiece in each of the series of the Radians, which you see in the front row. I have every series of eyepieces in the DeLites, which are in the middle row, and every series in the Deloses, which are in the back row. So the Radians came out in 1998. There are 9 eyepieces in that series, and they go from 3 millimeters to 18 millimeters in focal length. And in all these, the short focal lengths are to the left, and they get larger as they go to the right. The next series to come out was the Delos, which are in the back row. The reason these are in the back row is because they were taller, and I didn't want them to overshadow the shorter ones that would be in the back. So the Delos came out in 2011. There are 8 eyepieces in that series. They go from 3.5 millimeters to 17.3. And lastly, we have the DeLites that came out in 2015. There's 9 eyepieces in that series. They go from 3 millimeters to the 18.2. The Radian series all have 60-degree apparent fields of view. The Deloses have a 72-degree apparent field of view, and the DeLites have a 62-degree apparent field of view. The Radians have long been discontinued. When they were available, they were $240 each. The Delos eyepieces are current, and as of May 2019 are $352 each. The DeLite also are current, and as of May 2019 cost $256 each. So I just want to be clear that one of the things that this video isn't going to be about are my visual impressions through the eyepiece. I've been very happy with these. Now, there are too many factors that go into for every observer as to what they like in an eyepiece, what is acceptable in an eyepiece, and just too many factors, some of which are the observer themselves. Are there any issues with their eyes? Actually, about 6-7 years ago, I ended up having to have cataract surgery in both eyes, and I started to notice I couldn't focus as well in an eyepiece when it first started, the eye that I always look through. And it was just a slight anomaly, and I kind of put up with it for a little bit. So you have that. What is the observer okay with to accept in eyepieces? What, everybody's got their own threshold as to what they are willing to see as acceptable, and their own level of acceptability when it comes to optics in general. The telescope type and the quality of the optics of that telescope. Is there any possible telescope collimation issues? You've got seeing conditions. What is the experience of the observer, the observing experience? Eyepieces are a personal choice, as with telescopes. I love refractors, that's all I use, so everybody's got their own choice there. My recommendation is go to star parties, try to look through different telescopes, look through the different series of eyepieces, and then come up with your own conclusion. And as I said, I use exclusively refractors. My current main telescopes are a TeleVue 60mm f6, an Astrophysics 130 GTX f6.3, and an Astrophysics 175 f8. So you ask, what is the purpose of this video? I thought it would be interesting to show the progression of how they change from the Radians, then to the Delos, and then to the DeLites. I would imagine there's a lot of people that still have Radians, and let's say you wanted to get a different series. and you wanted to see how the Radian compared to the DeLite or to the Delos, or you just want to see, maybe you've got DeLites and you want to see how they compare to the Delos. I've not seen any video that actually has every one of these eyepieces and shows you the differences in them. So what I'm going to do is go through each eyepiece in a like focal length. So here you have the 3mm Radian, you have the 3mm DeLite, and a 3.5mm Delos. So I will take each one of these separately, or in a series. I'll take these three, put them together, show the how they're made and what makes them different, or maybe somewhat alike, the size differences, and I'll do that for each one of these. And then if you've got a small telescope, you may not want this big Delos. You may say, I want the DeLite. In fact, the DeLite effectively replaced the Radian series. And again, I've been happy with all these. I've got other TeleVue eyepieces. In my own personal experiences, I've been very, very happy. And again, my recommendation is try to go to someone that has these, look through them, and see what you think. Oh, by the way, these all have 20 millimeters of eye relief. And I have worn glasses ever since the first grade. I observe with my glasses on. I don't want to set them down in the dark, step on them. So, in my experience with these eyepieces, with the 20 millimeters of eye relief, I've not had any issues in being able to see the full field of view. One thing I might do here is just go over some, hit a little bit of Eyepiece Math. A couple things that are just very simple. I'm assuming most of you know this. If you don't, here you go. If you want to determine magnification, you would use the telescope focal length in millimeters divided by the eyepiece focal length in millimeters. So let's say we've got this 18mm Radian eyepiece with my 130 GTX f6.3 telescope. That's 819 millimeters of focal length. So you would take the 819, which is the telescope focal length in millimeters, divide that by 18, which is the focal length of the eyepiece. You get 45.5 times. So now we want to know what is the true field of view of an eyepiece. So you would take the apparent field of view, and most manufacturers give that specification. You take the apparent field of view, divide that by the magnification of that eyepiece. So here we're going to use this 8mm Delos. We have and I'm going to use it with my 175 f8, which has a 1400 millimeter focal length. So now the Delos has 72 degrees of apparent field of view, and the magnification with this eyepiece is 175 times. So you take the 72 degree apparent field, divide that by the magnification of 175, you get 0.41 degrees of true field. Another way you could do it is you could take the eyepiece field stop diameter. A lot of places don't give that, a lot of companies. Now TeleVue gives it for all their eyepieces. So you would take the field stop diameter in millimeters, divide it by the telescope focal length in millimeters, and multiply that by the constant 57.3, which I'm going to assume is a radian. Okay, and so now that's 9.9, which is the, in this particular 8mm Delos, TeleVue states it's 9.9 millimeters diameter. Divide that by the 1400 millimeter telescope focal length. That gives you this figure here, and I just left it to all those digits, and I multiplied that times the constant 57.3, and I come up with the 0.405 degrees, or would round to 0.41 degrees. Okay, let me also state that a radian is 180 degrees divided by pi, which is 3.14159265359, and it goes on forever. So you take 180 divided by pi, and that you come up with 57.2958279. rounded is 57.3, which is, I believe, that constant is using the radian. And a radian is just, it's an angle in which it is equal to the center of a circle whose arc is equal in length to the radius. So when the length on a diameter, say you have a radius of 6 inches, when the arc is 6 inches in length, when you on a diameter, and you go from any point to the next point and say it's 6 inches, that would be a radian. So if you have a 12-inch radius and you have a 12-inch arc length on that diameter, that is also equal to the radian of 57.3 degrees rounded. One last thing we're going to look at is the exit pupil diameter, which is the telescope's clear aperture divided by magnification. So we're going to use this 13 millimeter DeLite, and we're going to also use the 175 f8 telescope. So you take the clear aperture, which is 175 millimeters, divide that by the magnification, which this 13 millimeter with my 175 will give me 108 times. So you come up with 1.62 millimeters of exit pupil diameter. Another way you could do it is take the eyepiece focal length in millimeters and then divide that by the telescope focal ratio. So the eyepiece is 13 millimeters. The focal ratio of the telescope is f8, and you also come up with 1.62 millimeters of exit pupil diameter. And here are the specs for the Radian eyepieces for the field stop diameter as given by TeleVue. And here are the specs for the Delos field stop diameters. And then the DeLite field stop diameters. One thing I do want to show you, what I like to use to keep these eyepieces free of dust, because they're going to get dust on them, is this product by Visible Dust. Now they're not cheap. I've got a review on my channel here for this. It's got a filter on the end, but this thing works great as a blower to get dust off of eyepieces. So I just thought I'd mention that because they're expensive. You want to keep dust off. It's going to get on them. No two ways about it. I have found this to be a really good way to keep them clean. So let's get into it. We're going to have these. This is the Radian, the first to come out, again, as I said, in 1998. Next up is the Delos, which are the largest of these three series. That came out in 2011. Then you have the DeLite, which is slightly bigger than the Radians, and they came out in 2015. So we're going to see how these compare. Alright, so let's take a look at this Radian first. This is the 3mm Radian, and it has a feature which TeleVue calls their Insta Adjust eye guard that you see here. Has click stops. And that allows you to position your eye optimally for the eye relief of the eyepiece. And again, I wear eyeglasses, so I keep it all the way down. I never use it. But if you want to keep your eye and you don't wear glasses, you can pull this up so you can put your head up against this, your eye up to it, and it keeps it at the optimum distance to the eyepiece exit pupil. Now I don't have to use this because, like I said, I wear glasses. I've worn them my whole life. and that's just not something that I use, but it's there if you need it. It also has this fold-up rubber eye cup here. That's something I also don't use either. Next up, we're going to take a look at the 3.5 millimeter Delos. And this is interesting in the fact that it has a different kind of eye cup, eye guard. It has a locking eye guard housing. So what happens is you place it where you want it and just turn it to lock it. To change it, to move up or down, unlock it. Put it where you want it. And that ring right there, that locks it into place. Now that's a nice feature because the Radian does, you can bump that and it can move on you. This won't. It also has the rubber eye cup, eye guard up at the top too. So you can use a combination of those. This will allow your eye to set optimally at the exit pupil of the eyepiece. And we will now take a look at the last one in the series, the DeLite. This is the 3 millimeter, and like the Delos, this has the same locking feature. For the adjustable eye guard housing. Also has the rubber eye guard up there.